Hello guys, welcome back to the Eat Like Ruby podcast. I am back in studio today doing a solo episode. I am here in a brand new studio, which is actually super exciting. And really what I'm going to talk about today is just life update, kind of physique and muscle gain update, because I know so many people are following along with that, but also just, like I said, life, business, all of the things in between. I said on an episode a few weeks ago, I think it was one of the episodes with Shaq, I said that I feel like this time of year, and for me personally, is just a really go inward, kind of focus on my own shit, focus on work, not really care what anyone else is doing, focusing on my own goals. And that is very much the season for me right now. And I thought it'd just be cool to bring this convo to the podcast because there's so many little things that come up as I'm navigating this and as I'm obviously navigating the muscle gain phase, where I just think oh, that'd be a cool little mindset chat to have, or just a little insight to bring to the pod. So today's very much going to be, I'd say, life update / mindset chat, which always just goes in so many directions. I feel like sometimes these are the most random episodes, but then so many people reach out and just think, say that there was something really awesome or something really beneficial that kind of just hit with them. So it's cool. We'll see where we go today. But like I said, I'm in a new studio, which is very exciting. Obviously, the podcast is a massive part of Eat Like Ruby, and the podcast community is a massive part of Eat Like Ruby. And I honestly love you guys because the amount of people who reach out anytime I sort of reference the podcast on Instagram, so many people reach out and just say, oh my God, I'm always waiting for Thursdays. I love Thursdays. I can't wait. It's the first thing I listen to. I listen to it when I train. So many cool little bits of feedback like that. And it's so funny when you do a podcast because you literally sit in a room and talk to yourself about whatever, about your own life or about nutrition and training. And sometimes obviously we know it goes in so many directions, and I'm just left sitting here thinking, did that make sense? Is anyone even picking up what I'm putting down? And it's just cool to get the feedback from you guys that you are and that you're loving it. So what I was getting at there is, like I said, new studio. And really the reason behind that is because I love podcasting. I want it to be something we keep doing for a very long time. And I want it to be something that stays really good and really intentional and really valuable in Eat Like Ruby. I always want you guys to be able to tune in every week and get some wicked value and have it be delivered in the best way in terms of the sound quality and the visuals and all of those things. There's so many little things behind the scenes to podcasting that people would be so surprised to think about, but I really want it to be honestly just as awesome as it can be for you guys. So hence me sitting in a brand new studio today. And before I get into too much more of the life and biz kind of update stuff, I am going to do a little muscle gain update because I know so many of you guys are following along with that. If you follow on Instagram, you'll know that this is pretty much the main focus of my content right now. I try to remain mindful that not everyone is pursuing a muscle gain goal and still put a little bit of fat loss stuff and other content out there. But obviously my own nutrition and training and my own mindset stuff is very heavily centered around the muscle gain phase right now, which is very cool. I think when this episode comes out, so I'm actually recording right now on the 1st of May. I think this will come out around mid-May, and I won't have long to go in the gaining phase at all, which is so crazy because it goes so freaking fast. I remember sitting on the pod just a few months ago talking about getting ready for the gaining phase, and to be in a position now where there's about 6 weeks to go is just so crazy. It goes so quick, but I'll be wrapping up my gaining phase at the end of June. My personal fat loss phase will start on July 1st, and it's really cool because the next round of the Eat Like Ruby fat loss phase starts on that day as well. So that's cool. I've never really done that before. I kind of did last year actually when I was shredding for the wedding, but it'll be cool to be in my own fat loss phase while we're also running the fat loss phase in Eat Like Ruby. So like I said, I've got about 6 weeks to go in the gaining phase. Sitting here right now, if we sort of look at stats and all of the facts and where I'm at with that, if you've been following along, you'll know that I spent the first 10 weeks of this year eating at maintenance. So really strictly tracking at my maintenance calories, purely to just see how my body responded, to actually see if that was my maintenance. And just last year, as a bit of a side note, last year I didn't really track my food that strictly. I was pretty flexible. I obviously tightened it up towards the end of the year for the wedding, but as a whole, my year was quite chill. And I just felt like this year I want to turn it up a notch. Obviously, I've done that so much in the past. Obviously, I coach people to do that. I am the biggest advocate, as we know, that there is no right or wrong with nutrition. If you want to be chilled as and do what you want over here, you can. If you want to tighten it up and be strict as over here, you can. I am such an advocate of people really just knuckling down if it suits them and really just taking their nutrition in any direction to suit them. And for me personally, this year, I just felt like, yep, I really want to knuckle down and just get after it a little bit more in a way that I haven't for a few years. So that was my reasoning. I'm already off topic, but I tracked at maintenance for those first 10 weeks of the year. I maintained super consistently for the first 6 weeks, and then I upped the intake a little bit and so my maintenance was around 22 or 2300 calories. I took it up to around 2400 for a few weeks there and just started to see like a little bit of an increase in scale weight and measurements, and I was just getting good feedback that like that was the edge of my maintenance / the point where I sort of roll over into a bit of a surplus, which is just so cool to know. I speak about this so much in Eat Like Ruby. If you're in the muscle gaining phase or if you're in the fat loss phase, this is one thing we speak about heavily in the first few weeks, is just finding where these numbers fall for you and where you personally fall in terms of like, where's your deficit, where's maintenance, where's the gaining phase, etc. Because when you know these things, you really can take your nutrition and your goals in any direction at any time. If you know what's required of you personally to achieve fat loss, you can do that anytime. If you know where your surplus is, you can get after that anytime if you want to. So for me personally, obviously I've done this for years and I had a bit of an idea, but it had been a while since I'd been super strict, and I was just like, I want to tighten it up and just really get an idea of where I fall in regards to all these numbers. So as I moved up to about 2400 calories around mid-Feb, start of March, I started to see a little bit of gaining, and that just gave me an idea of like, okay, cool, this is where my surplus kind of starts. This is where my maintenance ends. And then I started my official gaining phase on March 10th or March 11th. My memory's wild with numbers. And that would end up being about a 16-week clear 16 weeks in the gaining phase. So 10 at maintenance, another 16 in an actual intentional surplus. And then, like I said, I'm really in the middle of that now with about 6 weeks to go, which is crazy. So when I went into that official gaining phase in March, I used all of that info and all of that data that I had from the first few weeks of the year to get an idea of where my gaining phase was. I went to about 25 or 2600 calories each day, which is cool. And obviously training, I've spoke so much about my training on the podcast this year, so I won't get too much into that, but my training has been so consistent, so solid, so heavy. It's just I'm just training very, very freaking well right now. And so moving to that 25 or 2600 cal intake was really cool. Kept up training and then just started to kind of see like, yeah, I'm probably gaining a little bit, but there's room to keep going and I just want to fucking go. And I was very much in the mindset, and this is cool. Like, one thing I want to speak about today is the fact that, like I always say, there's no right or wrong, and we can really go as hard or pull back as much as we want with any goal at any time. And the reason I'm saying that right now is because for me personally, I was getting feedback and I had a lot of signs and a lot of data to pretty much say like, yeah, you're in a little bit of a surplus right now, Rubes. And when I looked at how long I had to go and what my goals are, I made the decision, and this is just really cool to note, I personally made the decision to say I would rather overshoot and go too hard and honestly get a little bit too fat than underdo it, get to the end of the gaining phase and think, fuck, I wish I had gone harder. And that is not advice. I'm not saying everyone should do that. I'm purely saying for me, I looked at where I was at and where I wanted to go, and I made that decision of saying I would rather go too hard than not go hard enough. And not many people make that decision or really are willing to step into that. And that is totally fine. For most people, we talk about the fact that we don't want to do that. If someone's going into a gaining phase and they're a little bit apprehensive and they're a little bit nervous, we always talk about like, let's keep it moderate. Let's keep it quite safe. will really kind of tiptoe in, make sure you're feeling good, and we'll find all of the kind of comfortable areas where we're not pushing too hard and you're not feeling too uncomfortable. That is absolutely a fantastic approach to take to a gaining phase, especially if you're quite new to it and especially if you're a little bit apprehensive. For me, I'm not new to it and I wasn't apprehensive. I was like, I want the gains. I want to absolutely make the most of it. And like I said, I'd rather go too hard than not go hard enough. And really my reasoning behind that was because this is probably the shortest gaining phase I've ever done. Usually I would do closer to like 8 or 9 months. This one was around more like 4 to 5 months. So I was just like, I don't want to fuck around. I don't want to waste time. I'm going for it. And the other big thing there, I spoke about this a little bit in recent weeks, but the other big thing there is not a doubt in my mind that I will have an incredibly successful fat loss phase on the other side of this. Like not for 1 second do I doubt that. So when I think about going really hard in a gaining phase and essentially getting to the end of June and thinking, fuck, I've beefed up. I'm in a big position right now. I've got a big fat loss goal ahead of me, like big for me personally. That doesn't bother me. That doesn't scare me at all. I'm excited as fuck to get after that. And like I said, I don't mind if there's a few extra kilos there for me to get off because I have full faith, full confidence in the fact that I will do that. So that's a little bit of a side note. Like I said, today will be a bit of a rambly ep, but that's kind of the mentality that I'm in. And for that reason, I took my intake from around that 25, 26 mark closer to about 27. So most days I'm eating in the 2,700 calorie range. It's cool. It's exciting. I enjoy it. But at the same time, I think I said this a few weeks ago on the episodes with Shaq, I am so mindful of food quality and really ticking boxes and eating all the good foods every day that the number doesn't excite me that much. I don't think like, oh my God, I've got 2,700 calories here. I can go out for pizza and burgers and cake and all these things. Literally, I'm eating the same things I've been eating for 10 years, just bigger serves is honestly what I'm doing. But for me, that works. It feels good. It keeps me in good health. It keeps my training good. It keeps my gains good. Like it just works for me. So I really don't care if I'm eating 2,500 or 2,700 or 2,200. The meals are pretty much exactly the same. It's just the serving sizes are a little bit bigger. So as a bit of an update with the increase in that intake, my scale weight is probably up, I'd say about 4 kilos right now. It sort of fluctuates, give or take. I started the year at 62.1. When I did my 6 weeks at maintenance, I was 62.1 at the 6 weeks mark. So that was crazy because it did move around a little bit during that time, but then like it fluctuated up and down over those 6 weeks, but then it came back to 62.1. And it was just really cool data and really cool feedback for me to say, okay, cool. I ate very strictly, very consistently in the 2,200 calorie range every day for 6 weeks. And I maintained brilliantly. If anything, I would say I leaned up a tiny bit. And I would say that's just through overall consistency with calories, protein, and very, very good training is really what I would say that would come down to. But for me personally, that's even just really great feedback and great to know that when I want to go to maintenance at the end of this year or next year or whatever, sitting there is such a real sweet spot for me to train good, eat good, have enough food coming in and feel lean and feel awesome. So that in itself was such a successful little experiment to know that if I go back there anytime, I feel really great there and I do maintain there. But what I was getting at is 62.1 at the start of the year. When I made that little bit of an increase around Feb and March, I saw just a bit of a spike up into the 63s and was kind of hanging there. And then that's when I made the decision when I was like, okay, cool. I'd say I probably had about 3 to 3.5 months to go in the gaining phase. And I was like, I've pretty much just put on a kilo. I've definitely got room to move. I've definitely got room to get a bit more uncomfortable. And that's when I went up to the higher intake. And then I've pretty much just progressively watched my weight move through the 64s into the 65s. Occasionally I've seen a very low 66 and then most days coming back to the 65s. So we've spoken about scale weight before and we know that we don't just want to look at scale weight, but it's such a good indicator when we're trying to assess how an intake is working, if we can use scale weight and then also look at pics and measurements, which I've been doing as well, we can really piece all that together and say, right now, like I said, we can really look at the data and just say, okay, cool, I'm clearly gradually trending up on the scale. And then we want to look at pics and measurements and go, okay, what is that weight? If I am, quote, gaining weight, what is it? Is it coming from muscle mass? Is it going on in my legs? Is it going in my upper body? Am I just getting a fatter stomach? Like, these are all the things you want to look at, because if we were just continuously gaining weight on the scale and then measurements were kind of sitting still, but like stomach measurement was going up, we could kind of look and go, okay, cool, we're kind of gaining in a way that we're not really intending to right now. So we want to look at that. If we're seeing scale weight go up, but then we also look at measurements and pics and we go, okay, clearly legs are getting bigger, clearly shoulders are getting bigger, whatever it is that we're working on, we can really piece that together and go, okay, cool, I am gaining, but very much in a way that I want to be for my muscle gaining goals right now. So it's just cool to be going through. It's cool to kind of bring it to you guys and kind of piece it all together, because I think obviously we speak so much about fat loss and we educate so much about fat loss, but this is just such a cool another phase to go through. And I know there's so many Eat Like Ruby girls that are personally dabbling in either maintenance or a little bit of a surplus right now, which is just cool to think about. And I just feel like I love to use myself as a bit of an example and kind of bring forward all of my numbers and my stats and my progress and everything to kind of help people navigate their own. If you kind of hear all that and think, oh, okay, that's what Rubes looks at, that's what she's doing, that's when she adjusts, etc., it can kind of help you piece it together for yourself. And one thing I kind of wanted to speak to today on the muscle gain chat, but then also just life and biz and all of the things like I mentioned before, is obviously when we think about the fact that I said I felt great and I felt lean and I felt awesome at 62 kilos and now I'm sitting probably closer to 66, obviously, like always, I never want to shame those numbers and wherever people personally fall, like it's such a personal thing. But for me, if we think about a person being 60 kilos, putting on 6 kilos is putting on 10% of your body weight. So it's just kind of interesting to think about it that way, because for most people, putting on 10% of our body weight is going to come with a little bit of discomfort. For some people, it wouldn't, and that's awesome. But for a lot of people, I think it's just cool to kind of tap in, because when we hear numbers that are quite low, we can think like, oh my God, who really cares if you're 62 or 66? But when it's your own personal body and you're very used to being one size, thinking about putting on 10% of your body weight is actually like, oh fuck, that's actually a little bit daunting and a little bit scary and a little bit uncomfortable. And that's something that I wanted to speak to today. Is there's definitely moments of discomfort for me. And I don't even love the word discomfort, because I just don't feel like that really explains how I feel, because I do have days where I think like, ooh, I'm not going to wear short shorts today, or fuck, I can't wait to be shredded again, or whatever. But there's never any sort of negativity or doubt or regret with it. And again, I think that comes back to the point I made before of the fact that I'm very, very confident in what I'm doing and what I'm going to do on the other side of this. And it all just makes so much sense to me for my end goal. When I think about my end goal, and I'll speak to this more over the coming months, but I have a lot of things that I want to do in business and in life around October, November. And I'm very much in this position of doing the work right now to optimize those things when that time comes. And like I said, I'll give a little bit more insight into those as they get closer. But for example, if you've followed along for years, you'll know anytime I do a real intentional fat loss phase for myself, I usually do a photo shoot for business. I haven't done one for years. I didn't shoot last year at all. So I definitely want to shoot towards the end of this year. And that's just one example of something that I'm working towards that just makes me think, fuck, I am so clear on how I want to look, how I want to feel, the position I want to be in when that time comes. And I'm such a fan of just reverse engineering and thinking, okay, what has to happen between now and then to get there? And when I really piece all that together and I think about, again, a photo shoot as an example, honestly, when I think about shooting, I'm like, I want the best fucking quads. I want the best abs. I want the best hammies. And then I just think to myself, okay, I know those things are built in a surplus. I know I'm in the surplus right now. Do the fucking work. Like, do the work to get to where you want to be. in 6 months' time or 12 months' time, whatever your goal is. But for me personally, that's very much what I'm working towards. And again, if I have those days where I think like, oh, I'm not feeling my best today, I feel like I'm able to just piece all of this together very quickly and go, but it's totally fine that you're not feeling your best today, because what you are doing right now makes perfect sense for where you want to be and where you want to get to and the bigger goals that you have. And that's just such a cool position to be in. And I think, like I said, today's really just update episode. So there's not a lot of lessons in this, but I think if there's any lessons to take from that, it's be okay if you are doing a maintenance phase or a gaining phase or anything right now, and you know what your plan is and you know where you're going and you know what you're doing. Be okay with the rough days or the days that don't feel so great. We've spoken about this so many times, and I speak about this with my muscle gain girls, but we never want the emotion to kick in and straight away change the plan based on emotion. We know we're going to have some ups and downs. It's like anything in life. And I think just the key there is making sure you're so fucking clear on what you're doing, why you're doing it, where you want to get to. And again, just piecing all that together and saying, if I want X, Y, Z at this certain time, what has to happen between now and then to get there? And that's absolutely the position I'm in right now. We even spoke about Shaq being in that position the other week where he's training for the Ironman. And obviously that's a massive event. That's very cool. But again, he's got to reverse engineer right now and just say, okay, if I'm going to do a 6-hour Ironman in September, what has to happen between now and then? He probably couldn't do one right now. What does he have to do every day so that when that time comes, he can actually pull off the thing he wants to pull off? And I'm very much in the same position with the gaining phase right now. And then on a similar note, business is pretty much exactly the same for me right now. Not to say I'm uncomfortable in business, but there's so many things that I'm working on right now that are taking a lot of time. They're very tedious. There's a lot of behind the scenes, long days, long nights, constant meetings with G, just so many little things that we're looking at that people probably wouldn't even think about. But there's just so many little things that we're piecing together, again, to really think about, okay, where would we love to be, or where are we going to be? It's not even love to be. Like, there's not a doubt in my mind that I will achieve all the things that I want to achieve. And just really thinking, okay, what do I want to achieve by October, November? Where do we want to be? What do we want to have changed? What do we want to have built? And again, just piecing all that together right now. Business is very much the same as the muscle gain phase for me right now. There's discomfort in terms of those long days and those long nights, etc., and tedious work, but it all makes so much sense. It's so obvious. It's very easy. I shouldn't say very easy, but it is easy to do the work when you know why you're doing it and you've got such a drive and you've got such a reason, and it just makes so much sense. So like I said, I'm not going to get into too much of that right now. And obviously, if you're in Eat Like Ruby, just know like we're not going anywhere. We're just getting bigger and better. And there's just so many little things behind the scenes that I think, fuck, if I'm going to do this work forever, what do I want to change? What do I want to elevate? What do I want to be even better to really be able to just keep pulling it off and doing the thing that I love and doing the best work and doing it in the way we love it? I feel like I'm very much in this phase of I've been doing this work for pretty much like a decade, which is just awesome. But really thinking, okay, I've done this for a long time. There's certain things I've loved. There's certain things I haven't. There's certain things people in Eat Like Ruby clearly love, clearly want, clearly thrive off of. How can we bring as much of that to the business as possible? How can we make as much of that available as possible? How can we make it as easily accessible as possible? How can it run as smoothly as possible for the client's sake, for our sake, for George's sake? There's so many moving parts where I just think I'm just so insanely clear on the fact that I want to educate people on nutrition and training and mindset for the rest of my life. I can't see myself doing anything else. And I just think, okay, if I want to do that, how do I want to do it? Like, what do I love doing? For example, I fucking love podcasting, hence why I'm going from studio to studio to try and find the best way to do it and the most optimal way to do it and to bring the best podcast to you guys, because it's something that I want to be doing for a really long time. And that's just one example, but I'm just, honestly, I probably am never satisfied if I think about business, but I feel like every business owner can relate. And I think when you have a business that you're very much embodied in and you work in all the time, I think people can think that business is this thing where like you might build it and it runs really smoothly and then you go and lay on the beach all day. And some people do that, and that's awesome. If someone's built a business like that, so much respect. It's a massive achievement. But to me personally, that's not the end goal. The end goal to me is how much can I talk about nutrition and training, and how many people can I help with nutrition and training is honestly my end goal. And then looking at the behind the scenes of the business and thinking, okay, what can be refined and what can be tidied up to make that shit run as smoothly as possible so I can talk about nutrition and training all day, every day is very much the position that I'm in. And even just as an example, like I said, I don't want to give too much away, but when I think about what I love and what I want to do more of, straight away podcasting comes to mind. I would love to have more than one podcast a week, but that's a massive commitment. It's a massive thing. And when there's so many other things happening behind the scenes that take my time and energy and all of that, I'm very much in that phase right now of thinking, okay, what does take my time and energy that I don't want to be spending time and energy on? How do we tidy that up? How do we get it sorted? So Rubes' schedule is wide open and she can fucking podcast all day, every day. Or I can talk about nutrition training all day, every day. I can go live for my girls anytime I want to. We can write new programs. We can write new meal plans, any or all of these things. This is a shit that I love. And I just want to be able to have my business set up in the way that I can do that as much as I can. And then as a consumer or a client or a customer, people can come and go as much as they can and get the most out of their nutrition and training as much as they want to at any time. And like I said, I'll talk about that more in the coming weeks or months, I should say, but very much in a refining and rebuilding era right now, which, like I said, is a lot of work. But it's so similar to the gaining phase where I'm just so clear on the reason why and the purpose and the end goal that literally every day with the gaining phase and with work, I pretty much am just like, okay, Rubes, you could just fucking twiddle your thumbs, sit on the couch, play on your phone, or you can go to gym, get after it, come home, eat the food, get on the computer, tick off another one of those big jobs, all that tedious work. G and I have got to-do lists fucking everywhere. And it's honestly such a cool feeling. I feel like I've done a lot of personal development. I've got a lot of self-awareness. I feel like I'm in a very good position mentally and emotionally to be able to tap in and be like, what is the best thing I can do for myself today? What is the best thing I can do for my end goals, for my bigger goals? Really delaying that, what do people call it? Like instant gratification or, getting that kind of quick fix energy and really just thinking, okay, this job might be annoying or this training session might be fucking heavy and hard, but it just makes so much sense to do it for the bigger thing that I want to work towards. So that's kind of where I'm at with nutrition and training. And I think the couple of little like mindset things that come up when I've been navigating this stuff and going through this stuff that I thought would be cool to bring to the podcast is a few weeks ago, Shaq and I did an episode and I touched on the concept of duality. And I feel like some people might not fully know what this is or really kind of think about this as much as I do. But really that concept of duality, like I said the other week, is having two opposing truths and being okay with both of them actually being true. And the reason I'm bringing it forward again today and bringing it up right now is because I think we live in such a time where we can see so much content about like hustle, grind, fucking get after it if you've got a goal. And then on the flip side, we can see so much content about like rest and recovery and burnout and downtime and all these things. And I think it's just so important to hold duality for those things and be able to say, okay, some people are in their hustle grind era and some people are in their rest and recover era, and that's fucking perfect. No one is wrong. If someone has like grinded and been through a ton of work and they really do need some downtime, that's freaking perfect. Permission slip, go for it. You do you. On the flip side, if you're someone like me who's just like, I've got a lot of fucking shit to do and I'm feeling so pumped to do it, let's actually go. That's perfect as well. And I think it's just being okay with really knowing what's best going to serve you at the time. And if we see someone else doing the opposite, actually being okay with that. I think it's so common if you're in your like resting and recovering era to see someone grinding and thinking you shouldn't live like that and that's wrong and rah, rah, rah. And then on the flip side, if you're knuckling down and you're getting after it and you see someone chilling, you're like, that person's fucking lazy, etc. Let it be okay like that. Different people have different goals and different shit's going to serve them right now. And I think it's just important to really get clear on your own shit and your goals and what you want to be doing right now. And I think when you are, this is something that's become really obvious to me in the last few weeks, and it's very cool. It's been a very cool thing for me to see. When you're so clear on what you're doing and why you're doing it, and you know exactly what you want, you don't give a fuck what anyone else is doing. You actually don't. And I think this is so true for business and for nutrition and training and body comp stuff. Because if we think about that nutrition and body comp side of it, when we're not sure of what we're doing with our nutrition, if someone's in a position where they're a bit lost or they're confused with nutrition and training and they haven't really found their groove, or even if you're someone who has learned a fair bit, but you're just not sure of like, oh, do I want to pursue muscle gain right now? Do I want to do a performance goal right now? Do I want to run a 5K? If you're just not really sure what you're working towards, I think it's so easy to see other people doing stuff and then think, oh my God, fuck, I should be doing what she's doing. And I think it's just really cool to tap in and clock like, shit, is that me? And I think it's one of those things where like, if you know, you know. And for me personally, the reason this has come up and the reason I'm bringing it up is because, like I keep saying, I'm just so fucking sure of what I'm doing. And I am at that point where I'm a little bit uncomfortable. Some days I train in like trackies because I'm like, not vibing the short shorts today. But I can be at gym and see somebody walk past in the tiniest outfit, the most bang and board, ripped, whatever. And I'm able to look at that and go, I have so much respect for you. You clearly work your ass off, but I'm going to keep building my board over here and getting a little bit thicker in the meantime. And I think that that's just a really cool position to be in, because if we bring it back to what I was saying, when we have uncertainty or we're not sure what we're doing, it's so easy to see someone like that and be like, fuck, I should go on a diet. I should go into a deficit, do a big 180, cancel my plans. I'm getting shredded. I want to look like her. And it's the same thing when we see someone with like, you know, you might see someone on Instagram with like a massive squat and deadlift. And then you think, oh my God, I should do powerlifting. And then we see someone doing Pilates all the time and you're like, fuck, I should be doing Pilates. And I think it's just important to clock that and think, am I very easily swayed and triggered by what other people are doing? Because I think the underlying thing there is we're just not that sure about what we're doing. And it's just cool awareness to have, because when you're able to see someone killing it in a different way to you and not feel like you then have to change your plans or anything to suddenly be like them, it's a very cool position to be in. And that just kind of confirms that you are really solid with what you're doing and not just going to fucking 180 on all your plans because someone else is doing something differently. And I think business is kind of the same, especially if you're someone who's in the nutrition and training space. I know we get a lot of coaches that listen. I think to an outside person, they kind of look at all nutritionists and trainers as the same and think that we all just offer the same thing and we all do the same thing. But when you really are in the space and you're getting clear on your niche and your strengths and what you enjoy and what you don't, there's actually so many ways you can take your business. And if we think about a perfect example, there's so many people right now doing like recipe services, whether it's apps or websites or ebooks or whatever. And that's fucking awesome. Like, they're so cool. I'm friends with so many nutrition coaches and so many of them are doing it, and it's awesome. We pretty much have this running joke that they're like building these awesome websites and I'm eating the same fucking thing every day for 10 years. But that's just a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Is people look at all nutritionists and trainers and kind of think like, oh yeah, you all do the same thing. But we really don't. And there's so many directions that you can take your business. And like I said, I think it's important to get clear on what that is for yourself, because we do all know that I'm eating the same thing every day. When I change up my dinner, it's big news. When Rubes has changed her dinner, it's like every 3 months, fuck, Rubes is having something else different for dinner. Look out. And so it would be so random of me to come out with like a recipe app, if we think about it. Because like, Rubes, you don't do recipes. You eat the same thing every day. But then at the same time, what I do love and what I'm so fucking clear about doing for the rest of my life, like I said before, is educating on nutrition. I don't want to be the person that's just making meals or making recipes or making reels of my day on a plate. Like if we think about day on a plate, it's again, Rube, you fucking eat the same shit every day. Don't make a day on a plate reel. Make it once and it's done. For me, I would much rather spend my time, like I said, podcasting, going live, masterclasses. If we think about the fat loss phase, in the recent round of the fat loss phase, I changed the calls from fortnightly to weekly. If we think about that, and I'm not saying this as a flex, but it's just a cool thing to think about. If we think about that, I've just doubled my workload purely because I wanted to. I was like, if we're going to run this fat loss phase, I want to talk to them every week, not every fortnight. So I'm doing weekly calls. I want to be, and I brought them back to live. We did a round where we did pre-recorded calls and it was cool. Kind of liked it, kind of didn't, but I love just being live on a call where people can just pick up what I'm putting down, answer questions on the spot, navigate things on the spot. I think that's very cool and it's a very much something that I think, again, not to flex, but something that I think I do very well and not a lot of nutrition spaces are doing. If we think about a lot of apps and like subscription services, you kind of join and you just work your way through the app and that's perfect. That can be so awesome for so many people. But for me, again, I don't want to build my business to a point where I'm laying on the beach. I want to build my business to the point where I'm going live all the time and talking about nutrition and training. So that's just been a cool thing for me to navigate and see people kind of taking their businesses in different directions and thinking, that's cool, that's awesome for you, that's perfect. I'm going to be over here doing my educational calls, doing my live calls, all of these things. So again, I think the little lesson there, I'd say for coaches, the lesson is similar to what I said with nutrition and training. Do you question your whole business model and your services and everything that you do just because you see someone launching something that's different to yours? And then same thing with nutrition and training. If you're not a coach and you're more of a client in this space, do you see someone doing something with their nutrition and training and then instantly think that you should change all your plans too? And again, like I said before, I think the big underlying thing there is just uncertainty. You just haven't got really clear on what you're doing, or you've got doubts about the fact that maybe you're not doing it right. I think we really want to get clear on that so we can just be so sure and so focused and be able to stay in our own lane when we see other people doing things differently. And I'm going to start to wrap things up here because otherwise I'll just keep on rambling like we know. But I think if we piece all this together, really, like I was saying before, I feel like the position I'm in right now is being able to have such good awareness every day and have really good logic. I think I talked about it in the episode with G the other week where I'm not very emotional and I'm very logical. But I think it's really serving me right now to just be in a position of every day just saying, okay, cool, what needs to get done today? And again, if we really piece together when your purpose and your drive and your goal is so fucking clear, you don't really rely on motivation or discipline or anything in those moments because you just go, okay, it makes so much sense for me to do that, as if I wouldn't do it today. When I think about what that's going to lead to and the position that's going to leave me in, why would I not do these things today? And that is really just what is happening in my mind at all times right now, just constantly. Honestly, it's just like one foot in front of the other. And in every moment, just being like, okay, cool. What I've got to do right now is go and do this big leg sesh. I'm just going to smash this sesh. I'm going to absolutely focus on that while I'm there, even down to breaking down like every exercise, every rep. I think it's common to kind of get a little bit stale with training and kind of start to go through the motions, and you might be doing your reps or doing your sesh, but your mind is in other places. I'm so mindful to bring that back in every session and just be like, don't think about work. Don't think about other shit. When you get home, you're going to do that shit. Right now is about training and literally tapping into every rep. Even, I think I said it a few weeks ago, one of my favorite exercise is a single leg press, and I start one of my leg sessions with the single leg press, and it's fucking hard straight away from the first rep. And I normally do about 12 reps, 3 sets. And literally the other day, I think I'd done about 4 reps. And I'm like, you have 8 to go. And then you've got the other leg. And then you've got 2 more sets. And then I'm like, you're doing this because you want to build your legs, because you want to have awesome legs, because then you're going to shred and then you're going to shoot. And you know you want awesome fucking quads when you shoot, as if you're not going to finish these reps and sets right now. That is literally what is happening in my mind at all times. And again, just bringing it back honestly in every moment with every single thing that I do and thinking, what needs to be done here and how well can I do it to optimize the end goal. And that's just one example. My other example, people always ask me, this will be a cool little side note before we wrap up. People always ask me about quads, or always say like, how do you get quads like that? The one thing I do for my quads, guys, obviously I do overall leg sesh, but the one thing I do for my quads is single leg extensions, 8 reps, 3 sets with a 3-second hold on every rep. So single leg, lift it up, and like no momentum, no swinging, no nothing. Again, this is an example of really getting focused and thinking for every single fucking rep, do not reef it up, do not swing it up, lift it with your quad. Like you are here to work your quads. Do not put your whole body behind this weight. Put your quad behind this weight. This is literally how my mind works, guys. So lift it with the quad, hold it for 3, 2, 1, and then again, lower it down with the quad. Don't let it just drop down. Don't crash it down. Don't let the whole body take it. Let the quad do the work. That's what you're fucking there for. Again, this is what my mind is telling me at all times. But that's just one example. And like I said, people constantly ask me what I do for the quads. That's my secret. 3 sets, 8 reps, 3-second hold on every rep. But really, again, just tapping into every rep and thinking about, why am I doing this? Why am I sitting on a leg extension right now? I could be anywhere in the world doing any single thing, and I've chosen to be here at the gym, middle of the day, on a Thursday, whatever it is, doing single leg extensions with a 3-second hold. Make the fucking most of it. And that is honestly my mentality with everything. Every afternoon, Shaq goes to work. He coaches most nights. And I think, okay, cool, you've got a 3-hour window. Again, do you sit on the couch, scroll on your phone and do fuck all? Or do you go in and tick off another thing off that to-do list? And again, it's just really thinking about, what are you doing right now? You could be doing anything right now. You've chosen to do this. Why? What do you want to get out of it? How do you make the most of that? That is my story. That is where I'm at right now. Like I said, I think I've got about 6 weeks to go in the gaining phase. I will do an episode sort of when I transition from muscle gain to fat loss. I think that could be a cool convo of pretty much like setting up my fat loss phase. I think will be awesome. So keep your eye out for that in about 6 or 7 weeks time when that time comes. And then, like I said, there's obviously a lot of things I'm chipping away at behind the scenes in Eat Like Ruby. And I just think it's going to be taking everything that we currently do, making it bigger and better and more efficient for everybody, and then bringing in a few extra little things as well that I think are going to be very cool. But that is all for today. Thank you guys so much for listening. Guys, if you're enjoying the podcast, please let me know. Put it on your stories, tag Eat Like Ruby, tag the podcast page. Like I said, I come here and I literally sit here and talk to myself every week, and I would love to know that it's worth it and it's landing. And like I said, I would love to hit a point in the next few months where we can podcast more than once a week. But again, I want to know that that actually makes sense and people actually want to hear from us more than once a week. So if that's something you would love, let me know. I'll see what I can do. But in the meantime, show us some love, give us a rating, give us a thumbs up, give us a share, all of the things. And like always, I will be back next week.